Today what I wanted to do was show you a little bit about carving your stamps and some of the tools that you might use for them. Your stamps should be either a design, a texture, could just be, something neat that you like, or you could make letters, initials, numbers, but something to represent you. Now, you have previously made your stamps and you allowed them to get leather hard. Before you start carving it, you want to check the exterior and see if there's anything that you need to kind of fix up base. So I'm just trimming off a little bit of the edges to just help with some precision. Sometimes the corners might get, just a little rounded or something, and in this case I wanted it to be just a little bit more precise. If your stamp end is not flat, you want to check that. I'm just using a little sponge to make sure that it's smooth and flat. You can always take a knife and shave it off, as if you're carving a potato or something, if you're peeling a potato. Now, what I want to do here, in this case, is I am going to do actually kind of a typical design that I have had on stamps in the past. I'm going to do a W with a square around it, and I'm going to carve away the background. So there's my square, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to draw it as a block because I want to remove the background. If you don't draw it as a block, there's no way that you can get the background removed. Okay, so I've kind of drawn this. I'm just going to take a drier brush, kind of knock off some of those burrs. If your carving is not quite deep at this point, just go back, go over it again. I just want to make sure that it's a nice crisp edge there, so when I go to use the little loop tool, it'll carve more easily. Knock that off again. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a ribbon tool. The ribbon tools are called ribbon tools because it's really a wire that has been flattened, and then the wire is bent into a specific shape. I'm going to use the small little triangular ribbon tool. There are some rectangular and also circular ribbon tools depending on what your shape is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the tiny little tip because I need these little areas in here carved away. If you chose to do this with the needle tool, it is possible, it's just more time consuming. So I'm going to carve away some of this background. Here's one corner. I'm going to come in here, do underneath the W. And I'll do the outside and the other side, and then up here at the top. Now, carving it is a process that you have to go over several times. So now that I've carved away the background, now I'm going to come in here again with the needle tool, and I'm going to redefine the carving. I'm going to make the edges more crisp. I really want to have it deep enough that it's going to print well. There we go. And then I have to go back in here and clean it with a brush. Now let's say hypothetically you have it a little bit drier than you wanted, and you break off a little chunk. What you could do is just add a little bit of water. Let's say for instance, like right here, if I wanted the bottom of my W a little bit longer, I'm going to score, take a brush, add a little bit of water, and then I could take one of the little chunky things that fell off. I could push it back on there to add a little bit more volume in that one spot. So as long as you are trying to score slip, you can stick the clay back on there. Okay. Now with water on my brush, I'm going to come in here and begin to clean it up, get some of that water out. I'm just blotting it on a sponge. Then I'm going to go back in here and redefine, because whenever you clean up with a brush, you want to make sure that you're not damaging your actual carving. You want it to be clean and precise, not rounded to the point where you lose your detail. And that's looking pretty good. Maybe right up there, around that W, right up there. I'll redefine that a little bit more so that square comes out a little bit truer. Want it to look like a square there. Okay, and then lastly a little bit of water right in there. If you have burrs, you want to lift the burrs out of there. You don't want any burrs on there because when this is fired, remember that any burr that is there now will actually be a sharp edge later, and you would not want that. So, there we go. I think I could tweak this a little bit more, but for time's sake, that is how you do the carving and the cleaning. And one of the most important things, identification. Get your initials written on there with your bell. So if I ever find it, I can put it back in the appropriate cabinet. And that is carving a stamp.